Welcome to another travel training tutorial. My name is Dr. Emma Shapiro, and I'm going to teach you how to be the best travel therapist possible. Here we are learning about the complete ins and outs of travel therapy, and in today's training we're going to talk about choosing travel housing. So you're probably wondering, how do travelers do that? How do you go about choosing a house when you have to move every 13 weeks? So we're going to dive into that. So the first thing that you have to think about is when you're choosing housing is three things. Safety and comfort, that comes number one. Fun and adventure, and then cost. So those are the three things that we're going to frame our search for travel housing around. So once again, it's safety and comfort, adventure and fun, and then cost. So you have two housing options as a traveler. You can, one, get the housing that is provided by your travel company or travel agency. So essentially, if you work certain contracts, those travel companies may already have housing that they've sort of constantly supplied. Maybe it's an extended stay that they have connections with, maybe it's an apartment, maybe it's like a hotel, but usually several travel companies will have sort of housing connections. And so you can simply ask them and say, hey, I want to, help me find housing. You guys take care of that. And so that's one option for you. The second option is to find housing on your own. And so essentially that's what it sounds like. You're going to get your contract, and then you're going to have to go on a hunt and hope that you can scrounge up housing fairly quickly for your travel assignment coming up. So let's go through the advantages and the disadvantages of each. So once again, if you're going to have housing chosen through your travel company, they're going to find you housing. And what they do though is instead of giving you a housing stipend, you are going to actually get housing deducted from your pay. So they're going to automatically sort of decrease the amount of money that they're giving you because they're going to automatically supply the housing. And so you're going to earn the same amount, pre-tax and pre-everything, you're going to earn the same, but it's just instead of you paying rent, they're going to be paying basically the rent for you. So the advantages, well, it's quick. If you don't have a lot of time and you're in a hurry and you're just confused as to where to start, boom, they've often got housing, people that are just focused on working to find you housing. And so they can quickly do it. It's quick. It's also easy. They do it for you and they come back and they're like, here's your keys. And so that's nice. It's often furnished because they know that as a traveler, you're not, bringing a couch with you. And so it's furnished. It often will sort of have it be like a package. So it'll have your utilities included, your rent, and it'll be nicely packaged. It's often a little bit easier to set up and cancel that housing versus if you arrange it on your own. Think about, leasing an apartment. You often need to have a year lease. It's a little bit difficult to have an apartment that you're not keeping for a year, or you have to pay much more for that. And so with the advantage with agency housing is that they secure it just for those 13 weeks. And so you don't have to worry about, well, what do I say to my landlord at 13 weeks? How do I get out of this lease? And then often it's close to the assignment. They usually have main hubs of assignments, and so they know that travelers are constantly going there, and so that's why they've created this housing so that it's really easy and accessible. They try to choose housing that is very nice, very comfortable. So what are the disadvantages? Well, because there's a lot more work on their side, they're finding the housing, they've built this connection, it's more costly than if you find something on your own. It's also more costly because it's usually maybe a little bit nicer than what you would find on your own. I think of have you ever stayed in an extended stay hotel? They're really nice, and so that's the type of feel. It's not gonna be, mom's basement. This is gonna be nice housing. So that's the nice thing is that it's nice, but you're also paying for that niceness. it is unfortunately less customizable. So, say you wanted to be by the beach and their housing is not by the beach, you're not getting exactly what you want potentially for where you want to live at that assignment. You're more sort of relying on them and at the mercy of where their housing is located. And it may be more limited choices. It's impossible for travel companies to have tons of housing in every single city and state, and so there may be limited choices. It also may be harder to travel with, say, dogs or animals, and so those are some more challenges out there for if you're getting housing through a travel agency. Now, here are some questions when you're thinking about getting housing through the agency that you may want to ask. So number one is, where's the housing located? Before you say yes to getting agency housing, get some more information. So where is it located? What is the cost? And can you do ways to create that reduce the cost? Like, are they open for you having a roommate? Are they open for you teaming up with another traveler to stay there together? Think about, ask about if they have any amenities like pool or laundry facilities. What's the parking situation? Is it covered or uncovered? Is it free? Are utilities, internet, and TV provided? Is it furnished or unfurnished? And what's the price difference between the two? Because sometimes they may have both packages and you want to compare. What's the deposit and the cancellation fee and the cancellation policy? What is the type of housing? Is it an apartment, a condo, a house? How many bedrooms are there, and are pets allowed? And if pets are allowed, is there an extra cost to that? All of those that's a pretty good list of questions to ask, and I think once you get those questions answered, you'll have a good idea as to whether or not you want to take that housing or not. Okay, so now let's move on to finding your own housing. So when you find your own housing, the difference is that you're now going to receive a housing stipend, which is tax-free. So a housing stipend, it's essentially, I call it a stipend because it's tax-free money. And so you're going to receive this tax-free money that's really for the purpose of finding you housing. And so then you take that and you find your own housing. And you get basically that stipend every single month. So you don't get like a lump chunk. You get maybe $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. And that's the goal, is to use that for housing. So what is the advantages of this? Well, often cheaper because we can find mom's basement or live with grandma and grandpa. We can be creative in our housing, and we can, room with friends and family, and go on Craigslist and stay on a couch instead of a furnished apartment. It's much more customizable. So say you were traveling as a family, did have pets, did want to, be by the beach or be in the city and be right next to the bars and the hot spots. It's much more customizable, and you can do that because you're in complete control. So you really just have many more choices to search from. But there are disadvantages. So it's stressful and time consuming. You may have to search on Indeed, search on HomeAway, search on Airbnb, communicate and talk with these different people, and maybe you have to say no to some people. Maybe it's got to be several emails or phone calls back and forth. Finding the right housing can be stressful and time consuming. So, if you have to start in 1 week, I don't know if you can find housing that fast. It's up to you. So that's where I would maybe sway you to go with housing that is supplied by the travel agency if it's possible. Not always is every assignment going to have that travel housing. You also have to think about the fact that if you cancel a lease, that there may be penalties and fees for that, that it may be hard to find furnished housing, and once again, it may be hard to find that quickly. So you may find it, but then can you find it fast enough for your assignment? Now, one big tip I have for travelers, and this is something where your first assignment, you'll realize this and go, oh no, is the fact that when you start talking about where you want to work, right then and there, even before you have the contract, if you really like that assignment and you're in the interview process, start looking for housing and start thinking about, does the salary, does the pay that I'm going to get, does that match with the type of rent that I have to pay? And will I still be earning money? And then not only that, but is there housing available? So one of the first mentees that I had, he calls me up and he's like, oh no, like I got this assignment, but now I need to find housing and I start like in 2 weeks. And so he was in scrambles. And I was like, oh no, like you didn't think about housing before you said yes to the assignment? And so he was really panicking and it was really hard for him to find housing. And he didn't earn as much on that assignment because he didn't think about how the housing correlated with the salary that you're gonna earn. So just something to think about, that before you say yes to an assignment, start to look at the rents in that location and make sure that it matches with all of your goals for traveling. Okay, now something fun though, money saving tips. So how can you save money when you are trying to find housing? Because we talked about the different choices, but let's face it, we all want to know, like, how can we find the cheapest housing possible? Well, number one is to stay with family and friends. So what I tell all my travel mentees to do is to try to organize their travel assignments around people that they know, around friends, family, relatives. And so that does a number of things. One, it saves you on money because you do have to pay rent, but that rent can be significantly less. But two, it saves you on the stress because you don't have to worry about, cancellation fees. Hopefully mom and dad won't charge you fees. You don't have to worry about furnished because those places will have furniture. And, family, they often have cars, so they can help drive you around, they can help get you groceries. There's all these extra benefits that come when you're traveling at family and friends' house. I almost think of it like a really neat road trip to visit all your family and friends and get paid to do it. But okay, let's face it, what if you don't want to travel with family and friends? You can find roommates. What you can do is you can talk to your recruiter and ask them if in their batch of travelers, if anyone else is at your same location, and see if you guys can match up and travel together and room together. That'll really save you lots of money that can go towards paying off your student loans that much faster. You can also use furnishedfinder.com. That's an excellent resource. And then, search Airbnbs and think about doing unique traveling housing such as RVs or fifth wheels. You can be a bit creative with where you stay and the type of housing that you're getting. So really quickly, here's your housing checklist before we close. Is what's the distance from the assignment? What's the distance from key attractions? Is it furnished? What are the utilities and amenities? What's the total cost? And compare that to your salary. What is the cancellation policy and the lease length? And then safety. Is it safe? So that's it for today's training and podcast. I hope you have an excellent idea as to how to find housing, how to choose between agency housing and finding it yourself, and then how to save some money while you're traveling. If you like this podcast and YouTube video, please subscribe, hit the like, and comment below, and I will see you in the next training. Bye-bye.